Welcome to A Feminine Conversation, a space where I speak with women from many diverse backgrounds, learn about their experiences in life and how they have shaped themselves and the influence of diversity on their lives today. Before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge that I am on Dja Dja Wurrung Country and I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and acknowledge their strong connection to the land and storytelling. Today's guest is Hannah, and we met through the same high school, and she is a wonderful young woman, a shared lover and patron of the Royal Children's Hospital, especially the fish tank, and I'm very excited to be talking to her today. You want to introduce yourself to everybody?
Okay. Hello, my name is Hannah. I'm 15, almost 16, so I'm going into year 11 this year. I love anything to do with creative arts, and I love true crime as well.
Yes.
And I was born with cystic fibrosis, which is a genetic and life-threatening illness. So, yeah, that's me.
Wonderful. I think this might be kind of an interesting question to kick things off. What was life like for you during the pandemic?
I think when it first started was probably the scariest because we didn't know a lot about it. We didn't have rapid tests. It was really scary and lockdowns and all that. And I feel like it was obviously very scary for everyone, but for anyone who was immunocompromised, disabled, had an invisible illness like I do, how much of after this has all happened, and I mean, we're still in the pandemic, we've still got Omicron, but it's a little bit better now since this strain isn't, it is, I mean, it's still killing people, which is really, really sad. But it's not as, I don't want to say it's not as bad, but it's more livable.
Yeah.
And we have rapid tests, and we're not in lockdown anymore. And I'm still able to be at school and stuff like that. So it's gotten easier. But at the start, it was really, really scary.
Yeah, definitely. How do you deal with your diagnosis just in everyday life, just day to day?
I think that's like a really kind of almost two-sided question. It's like a lot of people ask me, oh, how do you deal with it? And it's like, I've been like, it wasn't like I had a choice in this. And B, I was born with it. So it's really all I know. So it's not like I've known a life outside of, having heaps of treatment every single day, hospital admissions, all that kind of stuff. I see kids my age who are able to, especially with COVID around, able to go out and do, stuff within the city and stuff where it's a bit more, like there's more COVID. And I think I haven't known anything outside of it. So I'm not sure, like, if I was to know a normal life, maybe it would be a lot harder to deal with having cystic fibrosis. And it's definitely something that I still struggle with. I have been, like, my cystic fibrosis team, with most CF kids, you go and see a psychologist, like, especially when you're younger, to kind of help manage and deal with having cystic fibrosis and the differences that come with it. So, I think it's something that it's kind of a tough question to answer, but it's a great question because it's like, I don't know anything else. So when people ask, how do you deal with it? It's like, I don't want to say I just do, but I just kind of, I don't know anything else. So it's just how I always lived, and it's how I'll continue to live for a very long time.
What do you think the hardest thing is about having CF?
I think it's a really good question. I think that the hardest thing would definitely be the fact that it is an invisible illness. So if I was to, be in a lineup of people who are perfectly healthy and perfectly able-bodied, I'd look exactly the same. There's nothing, on the outside. I don't use any, as of yet, I don't use any mobility aids. I just look like everyone else. So it can be really hard when trying to explain to teachers or friends or family or anyone who I need to explain what's going on. it can be really hard for people to grasp because there's nothing visual for them to look
Yeah,
at, and I have to, like, everything's happening, like, on the inside of my body.
Yeah.
And then sometimes the easiest way to explain is to tell them, you know, how, like, the things that I have to do every day. I have to do, you know, up to 4 nebulizers every single day, each one of them taking, like, 20 minutes. You know, I'm taking up to 80 tablets a day. I've got hospital admissions at the moment, like, every 3 months. I'm, like, going in on Wednesday. So there's a lot that comes with it, and it's all kind of below the surface. And day to day, I seem like a completely happy, healthy, you know, able-bodied person. When really I'm not. So that's probably the hardest thing.
Yeah. And what is something, you know, because there's a lot of mainstream media kind of movies and things about CF. What is like a stereotype from one of those that you're just like, oh my goodness, like that is so not true? Or maybe, oh, this is kind of true to me or to other people, maybe.
I think it's such a good question. I mean, there was 5 Feet Apart, which was obviously the movie that really, I think, opens a lot of eyes to cystic fibrosis and what living with it was like. And I think the movie did an incredibly good job at showing, you know, what it's like to live with cystic fibrosis. The only thing about it was the fact that it was for the kind of plot of the movie. It was a romance movie. It needed to be not dramatized, like romanticized. So some aspects, like, I think the one thing that would ruin the whole entire plot is that if I'm anywhere near someone else who has cystic fibrosis, I would much rather just, like, not be near them at all than, like, take the risk of that 5 feet, 6 feet. And that's what we're taught from when we're young. If you're anywhere near someone with cystic fibrosis, you get out. You need to be separate. They used to have like CF camps, and kids with CF would come and they'd meet each other until they realised what cross-infection was, which is, you know, passing bugs from each other. My bugs, my cystic fibrosis, like when I have a chest infection, that's not going to be passed on to anyone, you know, my family, my friends, or anyone that I'm in a class with at school. But if there's someone with cystic fibrosis, I can pass them on to that person with cystic fibrosis.
Right.
And so at those camps, they were sharing bugs around. And yeah, it wasn't good. So the whole plot of 5 Feet Apart, sadly, if it was really in real life, it would be completely ruined. But obviously for a movie and for Hollywood, that's how it worked. I think that was the only kind of stereotype when people would be like, oh, so, like, do you know anyone with cystic fibrosis? And I'd be like, yes, like, I have, like, 2 people that I know that, like, have cystic fibrosis. One of them I'm relatively close to, but the other one I kind of just know of. So there's not many people, and you don't, especially when you're in hospital, you don't kind of see them around and stuff. And sometimes it's hard to pick up who has CF and who doesn't because it's an invisible illness. So I think,
Is it hard to, do you, like, feel alone sometimes just because you can't connect with people with CF, or do you have, like, a really tight community around you that kind of helps out?
I think there is a really great community. There's Cystic Fibrosis Victoria, and there's organisations that are set up to help families and kids and whoever has cystic fibrosis. They're there to help them. You can get funding for medical treatment because some of it's really expensive. You've got Medicare, but for certain equipment and medications that aren't on the PBS, it can be hella expensive. So those kind of organisations are really good with helping with that. You know, there's kind of fun runs and stuff that go on. Not so much now that we've got a pandemic, but so and they send out, like, newsletters, and there is a community. It's all very kind of, like, virtual. It's not so much in real life, but there is a community. But I mean, if you don't have that kind of those organizations and stuff, even then, you still, like, especially as a kid, I felt very, very alone. Like, no one else in my class had to walk up to the front when I was eating food and show my teacher, these are the medications that I will be taking, you know, and going into hospital and missing, like, I've missed chunks and chunks of school over my whole entire life. Like, if you put it all together, it would probably be like a year and a half. So I've missed quite a bit of school, and that can be really hard because A, you're missing out on social interaction and being with your friends, and B, you're missing out on your schoolwork and going into VCE. I think that's going to be a bit of a struggle, I guess. Or something that I'm going to have to work out how to do because I am in hospital and I have appointments and I will be missing out. So yeah, I think that's the thing. Sometimes you're missing out on stuff that no one else has to, and you're doing things that no one else has to. And you know, if I had friends over or if I'm at someone else's place, it can be a bit kind of like kind of awkward to take medication or anything like that. Especially as like when I was younger, I found it really, really embarrassing because you know, as an 8-year-old, you want to go play with your Barbies. You don't want to be taking your medication. So
Yeah. I'm also interested to know how your schools over the years have accommodated to what you need to be doing throughout the day.
I think I've been to 3 different schools now. And all of them, I've never had any really bad kind of incidents or anything like that. I mean, the school that I'm at now has been incredible. They've got some really good programs in place. I have teachers that I can go to. And even with BCE, they've got really good programs and stuff in place to make sure that I am able to catch up on work. Another thing is the team at Royal Children's Hospital. My team is absolutely incredible. And they're happy if anything happens, you know, anywhere. They're happy to send out doctor certificates and emails and stuff explaining what needs to be explained. And so all kind of like my doctors and social workers and all that kind of stuff have always been incredible in that aspect.
That's so great. I love the Royal Children's. They're so amazing. If there was a couple of things that you wanted to tell someone who had no idea what cystic fibrosis was, what would you tell them?
Probably the first thing is that it's not, I feel like a lot of the time if I'm like coughing in public or taking medications and stuff, you can get some weird stares. I've had teachers ask me if I'm like doing drugs or something. So I think the first thing is like, please just be understanding. You know, sometimes it can just it can make my anxiety really, like, I can get really worked up over like, you know, if I'm coughing heaps, like, you know, it's kind of, it can be embarrassing to have to leave the classroom because you're coughing so much. And it's just about understanding that like everything that I'm kind of going through, I don't have any control over. And there's no point kind of trying to, sometimes teachers especially can give you like kind of false options. They'll be like, oh, if you're coughing, just like take some Ventolin and just take a breather. It's like, it doesn't work like that. I need space. And like, if I'm coughing, I'm coughing. So please just like let it be. Just like not to stare. And that, I feel like that goes for anyone who is immunocompromised or disabled. If anything kind of happens in public, just be understanding. Don't stare. If we really seem like we need help, please, you know, don't be afraid to, you know, come help us. And I think the second thing is, following on from that, don't be afraid to ask questions. If you're doing it politely, and you're not being like, oh, what's wrong with you, that kind of thing, and you're politely asking, hi, I was just wondering, I heard you coughing in the hallway or whatever. You know, is everything all right? And I'm happy to explain. If you have any questions about, you know, at least for me, I really don't mind questions. I love, you know, answering those questions and talking about cystic fibrosis because as invisible illnesses as a whole need to be talked about more.
Absolutely. I can totally relate to
the stairs, because I used to wear a Boston back brace for my scoliosis. I looked like a tank, my shoulders are like this, and I was waddling around everywhere. So, absolutely being understanding and asking questions. I think, we all need to kind of be kinder to each other and learn about all the different types of things. And that's why I'm doing this project. I've already learned so much from talking to everybody. It's been so much fun.
I think the third thing is there's this incredibly fine line between being like pitying someone and then kind of just being kind.
Absolutely.
I think sometimes it's just an incredibly fine line, and it's not something that everyone's going to be able to understand, and I completely understand that. But it can just be really good if you're just being just being nice, just being kind, and then pitying someone and being like, oh, you're so strong, that kind of thing. And it's all about the way that you say it. If you genuinely mean it, I can tell. If you are saying it in a pitying manner,
I totally get it.
And like, oh, you poor thing,
you're such a
Exactly. It's like, and you're like, oh, you're so strong. I would never be able to go through this. Like, that doesn't make me feel any better.
It makes you feel so much worse, if anything.
So,
Yeah, that's such a good point to bring up. I forget, because I'm not wearing that back brace anymore. I just take like pain meds if I need to. So thinking about that now, like, how we both, I don't know if you did the big trip at the school that we used to go to.
I wasn't there.
Did you leave?
And I got all the stories.
Yeah. I went to Paris and Spain and France, and beautiful, beautiful, beautiful time. And I did it all in the brace, and every time it was, oh, I could never walk 30 Ks and blah, blah, blah. Like, it doesn't help. So definitely that point is so important to bring up. Just being kind, and the tone is so important. The way that you say it, it changes everything. If you mean it, if it's genuine, you can tell, right? And if it's like, oh, I'm so sorry, blah, 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 then it doesn't help at all. I want to know though, the last question, what your favorite thing is about the Royal Children's.
The staff, easy. I can say that. Like that. Like the staff there are absolutely incredible, and I'm so grateful for all of them. From especially when I'm like staying in hospital, the nurses there, incredible people. My nurse unit manager, Elise, I genuinely think the woman is Wonder Woman. Like, she is always like, I will come into hospital and the next day she'll already come and knock on my door, make sure I'm all right. If there's anything I need, there's half the nurses there and doctors really have, like, I've been in hospital enough that it's my second home. They've almost raised me. And there's just wonderful people in there who work so hard. And I've found like a lot of closeness between myself and certain nurses, and some of them I'm just incredibly good friends with, and there's just so many good people in the Royal Children's Hospital that work there. My physio Jen, one of my favorite nurses Grace. As I said, my nurse unit manager Elise, my head doctor Hip. All of them are just incredible people, and I'm so grateful for every single one of them.
Yeah, there's incredible people that work at the Royal Children's. And, I think it's also important to acknowledge all the work that the healthcare workers are doing, especially at the moment. It is absolute madness. So, it's so amazing, everything that they're doing, to keep us safe.
Yeah, seeing, like, I've been in hospital between, like, when COVID was first a thing, and to now where, it's very normal, and where, hospitals are overworked and understaffed, and going through a really rough time. And I mean, on my ward, Kelpie ward at Royal Children's Hospital, we're not a COVID ward, but we do occasionally have COVID patients come in because they just don't have any room in our COVID ward, which is Dolphin. And Dolphin was originally a short stay ward, and they've transformed that into a COVID ward. And they have testing centres, and they've just been able to like the turnaround has just been incredible.
Yeah.
So even then, and you know, the amount of PPE that nurses have to wear,
of course,
there's like the masks are insane, and they all just work so hard every single day, and I'm very grateful for them and everything that they do.
Yeah, incredible. It was so much fun talking to you again. Great to see you
Thank
again
you very
as
much
well.
for having me. Yes.
So much fun. It's so crazy that you're in year 11 now. Like, you were so small. Because I met you when you were 12. So now it's like, whoa.
And everything.
I know, crazy. And going to uni, it's all happening. So I wish you all the best for year 11. Gonna crush it. Gonna be amazing. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much.